What's up, everybody? Everything's just. I'm just gonna come out and say,
well, like
everything's just fucked. Hey, it's 4thGen.
No.
How's it going? 2 weeks. Haven't seen you, Nick.
Yeah.
So much shit show has happened, and we're just back to rolling with the punches. Yeah, life's good though. I mean, we're alive.
Life's good.
We're healthy, right?
Healthy.
You know, we're loved, right?
Love.
You got a good girl.
Shocking revelations.
No shocking revelations. Tons of shocking revelations.
Yeah,
man. Like, how's things? Like,
good, man.
How you doing?
Yeah,
man?
like I'm doing good.
I'm doing good. You know,
like I all think, I mean, at the end of the day,
yeah, lots has happened.
Lots has happened. But you're
2 weeks since our last episode.
Still happy. You gotta be happy. You gotta be happy.
I guess really at the end of the day, like no one's kicking our doors down. Like, we've talked about in the past yet.
Yeah, no one's. Yeah. No one's kicking our doors down. Yeah.
I mean, it's getting down there with some of these requests from the government and stuff like that, where with just people get vaccinated and like, I'm actually saying people get vaccinated. I want my freedoms back. I'm waiting on 1 million people in Alberta to get their shit together.
Yeah, but then I don't know.
I don't know. Like I don't. I know I'm probably gonna offend people, but I don't know. I'm just sick of it. Like I'm at my wit's end on those things.
Mm-hmm.
So that's one thing. We've always said we weren't going to talk about COVID anymore, but now we're not talking about COVID. We're talking about not very smart people, which is frustrating. And then we had an election, which is crazy.
Yeah.
For those who knew, I got braces for 2 weeks.
Oh yeah, for 2 weeks.
2 weeks.
What is that?
Well, I was on Invisalign for like the last 2.5 years.
Mm-hmm.
Had to take like a 10-month, like I couldn't do anything for 10 months because we had the big shutdown and all the dentist office shut down.
Right.
So for like 10 months, so I lost 10 months of progress.
Oh, so they had to like
on this.
So
right?
They're using the braces to like.
Yeah. So I was just like,
catch
all
up.
right, fuck, I am done with these things. Like I'm tired of like, because like I was having bad days, like where I'd start talking in the morning, take them out, and then they just wouldn't get back in. Right. And then I go to bed and I put them in. So I lost a lot of progress. So I just said, I'll just stick some wires in there and get her done. And they figured it's only like 2 weeks of work on it.
That's not bad.
Whatever. So it's pretty simple stuff. Mm-hmm. But yeah, anyway, so elections, which $600 million waste of
time and money.
Yeah. Frustration. Yeah, you just name it. What a joke. Anyway, fuck. Dude, like it's crazy though. Like some of the conversations I've had with, like, in my mind, are really smart people. Like they're very well rounded. Like they know a lot of stuff. Like they're at wit's end. And like these are people that are like, oh yeah, like I think we have a solution for that. Like they're smart people, and they're just like, what? Yeah. Like what a waste. What a stupid attempt. Nothing changed.
Yeah. Literally
nothing changed, except we blew $600 million in a country whose deficit right now is unthinkable.
For our size, it is unthinkable.
Our size
we like spent ourselves into oblivion.
Oh my God. And like there is no way out of this. I don't know. Like there's no way out of this debt.
Yeah, well, there is, except that obviously it's just never going to happen.
No.
Like, I mean, you literally have to like unleash our resources.
Yeah.
Like unleash and become self-sustaining and
pretty
become
much.
There's ways to do it, but it's just not.
But it's
just
long
political.
Road. Like it's so easy to get in the hole, but man, climbing out is going to be like it's going to be.
Yeah.
Hundreds of years of trying to get out of this hole. It is. How are you going to pull this off in like our lifetime? Get out of this debt.
Yeah.
Like the at the rate things move, like molasses in January. Like I don't know how the hell you're gonna, like, you're not gonna do this in our lifetime.
No, it's just,
I don't know what to do in my kid's lifetime. My poor kid. So I don't know. It's crazy.
I don't know. I don't envision. What's the best way to put it? I don't envision my kids growing up in North America at some point.
I'm at the.
I like that's kind of what I don't.
Same boat.
Like I just think that it's going to get to the point where we can't.
No.
Like you're basically, it's like, so we can't afford housing and food, you can't send them to public school and trust that they're not getting effed up.
Yeah.
There's no place for them that's safe to play, like outside. So what ends up, so really you end up kind of like what's left, right?
Yeah, what's left.
Yeah. So I don't see, like, I'll finish out my run. I'll go down with the ship. North America, land of the free. I'll go down with it, but I feel like my kids
in the lifeboat.
Yeah, like I feel like the next generation, they're gonna have to like really rethink, like, okay, what are we doing here?
Yeah, where is the true land of opportunity?
Yeah, because they're taking half my money.
Yeah,
and they can't keep the lights on.
Yeah,
that's literally what's gonna boil down to it. It's gonna boil down to like nonstop, like shortages of
everything,
of power, of water, of everything. There's going to be pandemic number 3, number 5, number 6. Now that it's kind of a precedence has been set.
Yeah.
So that's never going to end.
Yeah.
And then it's a slippery. I mean, it's like if you get to the point where somebody can pop a tent on your front lawn and you're literally, it's illegal for you to call the cops on them, like that they do, like how they have it in California. Then it's like, so why are you taking half my money then?
Yeah.
Like if there's no services,
property taxes for,
what am I
paying for somebody else?
Like, what am I paying for?
Yeah.
If you're gonna take half my shit.
Oh god.
And then, so it's like that's a big. And
all
it's
right,
not gonna
welcome
change.
to 4thGen, doom and gloom right out the door. Oh shit! Speaking of shortages, holy crap! I was like talking to a guy yesterday.
I was gonna.
What were you?
Beat my. Did you get some? Did you get a little snippy dude?
No. So I got my consultation. All right, we're going right into the men's health segment of the show.
No, well, I was like, speaking of shortages, did you get something chopped?
All right, yeah. So for those of you who know, men's health. Yeah, I went in for a consultation to get the old snipperoo happening there, and it's.
That's it.
It's a socially awkward in a scenario, So it's they walk. Okay, so in my scenario too, he's like he was behind, so he's like, "Hey man, do you mind if I bring another guy in and talk to you both at the same time?"
I would have been like, "Yes, actually, I do mind." Thank you.
Actually, I was like so in my own head that I was just like, yeah, fuck, whatever. So he brought this other poor bastard in, and you're like, we're both avoiding eye contact.
Yeah, naturally.
Like, and he whips out this picture.
What are you in for?
Yeah, whips out a picture. Yeah, exactly. What are you in for? Whips out a picture, the old Johnson there, and he's like, all right, this is what I'm going to do to you guys. And awesome.
Was it enough to change your mind, or?
No, well, it was crazy though, because he does go through, like, man, he asked me like 5-6 times, like, are you sure this is what you want? Because he's like, reversals are like, up to 10K.
Oh.
And they're not always successful. So he's like, and then like, they ask you like, how old is your current child? And are you sure you don't want more kids? And have you done freezing, like sperm freezing, right? And so it was, I was just kind of interesting to this is like that's the thing, right? So but what baffles me is how insanely busy he is. Like the waiting room was filled. There was like 12 seats in that waiting room. There wasn't one empty,
man.
So which is like good. Now I don't know, because he does both, like they do like circumcision and vasectomies. But I don't know like who was there for what. But I mean, they're all grown men. Yeah, so I'm like, probably, and nobody had their babies with them. So I'm like, well, it's probably not, circumcisions. But I don't know. It was good to see that, in a sense, is like that guys are stepping up to take it, right? Fully covered by healthcare, don't have to pay for it.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas women, like, they got to pay for IUDs, they got to pay for birth control, they got to pay to get their tubes tied. It's not covered under healthcare. So it's just, that's a strange precedence that our society has. And so it was good to see that there was a lot of guys in there, and to hear that he's as busy as he is, that guys are stepping up to do the deed. Because I mean, pumping your wife full of chemicals, IUDs or have getting them to tie their tubes. Now I think untying tubes is easier than fixing a vasectomy. So
I don't know.
I don't know, because I think it's just a clamp, and I haven't done enough reading on it, but it was so I guess like if you want to be safe, you would do the tube clamp or tying of tubes over a vasectomy in case you wanted to have more kids. But even like, you know, in the paperwork, like you had to sign off that you were cool with this.
Yeah.
You know, and that because they were asking like, well, how old is your current child? Because of SIDS, sudden infant death syndrome. So he's like, you know, if it's within 6 months or whatever of your childbirth, like don't, because God forbid the worst happens.
Yeah. Then you're stuck.
Then you're stuck, right? Yeah. Like so. But it was, you know, and it's, I don't know. It's just kind of like I talk about this with my wife, but the instinctual, like your brain, like the caveman brain, knowing that like, all right, like once this is done,
doesn't feel great probably.
It doesn't.
Like it's kind of got this like,
it's got a pull.
Yeah.
Like there is like a pull in my head that's like,
don't do it.
Don't do this.
Yeah.
But and it's weird because it's like, it's a cave. I know it's in a part that I'm like, but logically, like I need to do this. I want to do this. So why am I feeling pullback in my head? And it's like, it's kind of weird. And yeah, like I think it is just like an instinctual thing. Like you're, as a species, like, you know, you're like, I'm here to populate, you know, I'm here to spread the seed and blah, blah, blah. But yeah, so it's kind of weird. But anyway, one quote, we'll hop off of this conversation. One quote that I read, and I love this, like when I read this, it should put things into perspective. Mm-hmm. But I mean, like elections, like COVID, like there's just some people you just like you could take a drill to their forehead and they won't change their mind. Mm-hmm. And so this is a phenomenal saying. If a woman has sex with 100 random men in a year, she can still only produce one full-term pregnancy. If a guy has sex with 100 random women in a year, he can produce 100 full-term pregnancies. So why exactly are we only talking about regulating women? Mm-hmm. And I just saw this in a Facebook post once, and I was like, holy shit, like, duh. Like, I don't know why I had to read that to, like, get it. But, yeah, that information alone is like, holy, it's so true. So, like, why is it all just on one side?
Yeah,
right?
like, I mean, you gotta...
Like, or maybe it's just not talked about enough. Like when you go into the waiting room and there's like 12 guys in there, and like this guy's like, I mean, he's booking into December right now. Like I can't, I'm not going to be able to get the deed done till like late at the end of this year or next year, right? And that's how busy he is. So it's being done. But I don't know, maybe it's not being talked about enough that it is being done, and that, you know, men are taking the initiative, because you generally only hear it from the women's side, because it's very vocal on the women's side, which is not a bad thing. It's just that maybe we need to talk about that. Hey, there are things being done. We just don't talk about it for some strange reason, right? So, and that's like another like a men's health thing too. Like, man, I've heard like some crazy stories. Like I was reading about stuff. A little bit outside. So I started a conversation with a guy about how like they one of the guys that we know. Do I go into this conversation? No, let's not go into.
All right,
okay.
Cool.
Well, it's basically like the same thing as like women getting their breasts removed to avoid cancer. Mm-hmm. Guys getting their testicles removed to avoid,
like preemptively.
Yeah, to getting them removed to avoid testicular cancer.
Preemptively removed,
apparently. And so I guess there is a thing out there of guys doing that.
That's crazy.
That is crazy.
Because that's crazy that they would feel
that. Well, it's the fear.
The fear of it. Yeah.
Yeah. Of getting cancer, right? Testicular cancer. And like to go that far, like you have to basically be like, yeah, I'm done.
Yeah.
I'm done with the way I like being a dude. Like essentially, I guess. So, I mean, it's
now we're getting.
Well, it's kind of wild, and it's not like a sexual preference or anything. It's actually like there is a movement of guys out there that they're scared of cancer, like to that extent, where like they're just. But I mean, how far do you go? I mean, there's everything from lung cancer,
no, that's what I mean. Like, so
cancer,
well, all of your organs are susceptible to it. So it's like, I don't feel.
So I don't know if there's like a preemptive test that you can take that's like, oh yeah, like you're prone to testicular cancer, or like you know, there's a growth, or I don't know, like, but they're doing it preemptively. That's pretty wild.
That's pretty wild.
That is pretty wild. So
Man alive.
Yeah. So that, all these little things that to think about in, just men's health and just like being responsible, I guess, more than anything, and thinking of others and whatnot.
I don't know. I think it's just, that's a big meatball.
No pun intended.
No pun intended. But I mean, it's just, in so many ways, I kind of feel like the entire conversation around kids, like the procreation and like who's responsible for what and who has, you know what I mean? And who is, and the right to choose and who's, all that stuff. It's just like, I feel like it wouldn't even be a conversation if like everybody was like 20% less shitty.
Yeah.
That's,
like as a species, we're not very mature.
Yeah.
We're not mature yet.
I just feel like honestly, that's the biggest thing. It's like, it's like, maybe if men were impregnating women and taking off, there wouldn't be such a fear. You know what I mean? There wouldn't be such that need to be able to be like, okay, I gotta like, and I mean, like we've gotten to the point where it's like for lack of better terms, it's like you went, even 100 years earlier, like even 100 years from prior, like you had to have 4 babies to make sure one survived.
I know. Yeah. Yeah.
Literally, and like within a century, and now it's like we literally are like, for lack of better terms, we're just like throwing babies away. Yeah.
But I mean, in some places of the world, that is happening. Yeah. Like that exact comment is happening. Yeah. Like it's not a empty statement.
And like you get to that point where you're literally like, nah, I don't feel like it. Yeah. Or like it's just sort of like, and then men being completely
like, are we getting dumber?
It's just I think like the thing that it's sort of a weird, like you do understand that sex is specifically only designed to make babies. Right. Like, yeah, it's awesome, but that's literally what it's designed to do. So it's like, there's that at some point along the way, I think we like we sort of like abdicated a lot of responsibility. Yeah. For that. Yeah. And it's like, that's the tough thing. And so it's like, if you come at the problem from that angle and everybody understands what it's for and like what people should be doing, it's not, and I'm not one of those, it's not a Bible thumping thing where it's like, don't have sex till you get married. But I mean, it's just like, but that understanding that it's like every time you do it with anybody, it can happen.
Well, just being mature.
Yeah. And being mature about it.
Like the definition of mature is become very loose all of a sudden.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Like we're a little too, we treat really important milestones of life a little too nonchalant, like a little too
that's right.
nonchalantly, right? Like, and that's a scary thing because, like if we let that go too far.
Well, then all of a sudden things start to have no value.
Exactly.
And once things have no value, then you get quite frankly, you get what we're seeing. Yeah. Like where it's like abdication of response, you know what I mean? So like men get shittier, women get shittier. Yeah. And it gets to the point where it's like there's nothing of, there's like zero response. Like, so what are, like at some point you have to say like, are we just meat sacks? Yeah. And then we're worm food. And so you might as well, hey, have as much pleasure as possible within this like time span. Because it's who gives a shit? Like is that what we're doing now?
That's something we talked about. Like that's the one good thing about religion. When it's viewed correctly and executed correctly, where like those commandments, those guidelines of life. Like if you follow those, like just as a good person,
as a general,
like it doesn't need to be religious or anything.
But it has to start from somewhere.
It has to start from somewhere. Like we need like a basic principle of guidelines. Like a code. Like and that's why like I've always loved like samurais and martial arts and like the code. Like there's like a guideline to being a good practitioner, a good person, right? And finding that in your life is so important. Joe Rogan talks about there's this one thing that he lives by, and it's it's a really interesting piece. The four agreements. So be impeccable with your word. Don't take anything personally. Don't make assumptions, and always do your best. And there's like these four principles for the four agreements that you're supposed to make with yourself. So when you go out into public, be impeccable with your words. So like, be honest, be truthful, be, make sure everything you say has relevance and meaning, isn't empty, right? Don't take anything personally. So great, because like so many people are like, they hear something and then they snap, and it's like, man, like you just made your own life horrible when that had nothing to do with you. Yeah. Right. So, that's a big one. Don't make assumptions. That's a really great one. I like that one, of just looking at somebody, or like, for example, I met a gentleman yesterday, like you'd look at this guy and you'd never guess that the guy's like borderline genius and like just, been around the world and knows, it's just such a wealth of knowledge, and you can learn so much from just like sitting down for 5 minutes with a coffee with this guy. So don't make assumptions. It's always good. And then always do your best. I mean, I think that's one of the better codes you can live by for anything. And if you want to be successful in life, financially, marital wise, whatever, always do your best. It's like you can't.
Well,
you can't fail.
No, and we're just BC. Well, and that's exactly it. It's like, it's so the pathway to having a life that is head over heels, almost unthinkable for somebody 50 years ago or 100 years ago to have had, is so idiotically simple that it's almost shocking that nobody else, that's so now increasingly few are able to like, you know what I mean? Like, it's so, you know what I mean? It's just so like, just put in an honest day's work every day.
Yeah.
Don't do anything stupid, and it'll just come to you. You know what I mean? Like, the universe will provide.
Yeah.
Like, it's just, and people whine about shit that, honestly, like, people whine about shit that it's totally irrelevant. Oh my God, my rent's $1,800. Well, you have a home. Like, you know what I mean? It's like, oh, I'm sorry. So you're like,
that's another one of the rules that could be in here, is be grateful.
Yeah.
Like
it should be. Like,
another...
I mean, it's just, it's so, that's like, when you talk about like poverty, or what we think poverty is, it's like, you have no
you're not living it.
You have no clue what poverty is.
Yeah.
You couldn't imagine.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, you literally couldn't imagine. There's been like no point in our time where somebody just with a job wasn't living a lifestyle that is unbelievable in the grand scheme of things.
Bruce Wayne, Batman, when I know it's like way off base here.
No.
But like, he's, in the movie, he stripped down. He was a multi-billionaire. He stripped down to nothing and went and lived in the slums to understand the streets.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And like, you're not seeing someone here in Edmonton stripping down and going and sleeping in the gutter for a week to see what it's like.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's weird, like, people go to these big galas. It's kind of a weird thing, right? Like, you got these massive galas where they spend like hundreds of thousands of millions of dollars, right? Yeah. And they're dressed up and they're dancing and they're whining and dining, and they're all there to support eradicating homelessness.
Yeah, that's right.
And you're like, you guys, on this event alone, what you spent here, you could, if you want to do a good gala, show up dressed like an average Joe at a soup kitchen and talk to these people.
Yeah.
And find out what the real problem is. Instead, it's like, well, it's easier to just throw money at it and let somebody else manage it. And you're giving like other people jobs because they're managing this homeless situation.
It's like it's sort of like it's I say it with, I like to use it with the liberals because they piss me off sometimes, but it's like, it's the like, you're managing the business of pretending to care.
Yeah.
Like, you're managing the business of addressing these problems.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's the sad thing, and it's like you literally cannot, it's like, that's, you can make a UN statement and send $200 million somewhere, but it's like, you can't give running water to the indigenous people.
Like,
you know,
yeah, if you want to
like,
hit the nail at home,
like that's the biggest thing.
Big one.
You know what I mean? Like that's the biggest thing. It's like literally there's all of these foundations, all of these like, you know, all like, I mean, we had a whole goddamn day about it yesterday, and it's like, but it doesn't fix anything, you know?
That's
like, that's the thing.
See, like, and that goes back to like what we were talking about when you just start going through the motions.
Yeah.
And there's no like actual like meaning to it.
No.
If you've just kind of become a hollow shell that just, yeah, like that's kind of crazy. That's actually a really big struggle. Like, I mean, mentally I think it should be a big struggle mentally for people. Cause like when you give $20 to somebody on the street, to me, it doesn't feel good anymore. Like I remember doing it like my early days, like when I was like in my 20s. If someone
had some disposable money,
you know, I mean, even if I didn't have, like if I had like $5 and like someone was there, right? You give $5, and it did make me feel good. It's like, you know, I'm helping him out. But then you hear about, oh, they're just gonna go buy more drugs or booze or whatever, right? So then I switched that up. So if I saw somebody and like, you know, the mood hits you where you're just like, fuck, like that guy looks like he's trying, you know? So you go and you buy something from Tim Hortons.
Yeah,
and I've done that where guys ask me, and I'm like, you know what? I'm not going to give you cash.
I'll buy you a meal.
I'll go in the store here. I'll buy you some taquitos from 7-Eleven or whatever, or water or whatever, right?
Yeah.
But I've also been a part of like trying to do that, and they gawk at me. They're like, ugh, never mind. Yeah. And then you're like, what?
Well, because it's not what they need.
Fuck.
It's like not what they need. Like
exactly,
it's not
right?
what they feel like they need.
So you get crushed on wanting to help.
Yeah.
But then, so when you look at like these organizations and then you donate to organizations, and then you see like the waste, or you hear about the waste and reports like, coming out.
My baby's, my little sister, she's very on top of which, like she checks their financials.
Yeah.
She like sees
that's
who's getting paid.
I've even started doing that.
Who's getting paid what for what.
Yeah, what percentage is going to the actual cause.
And it's and UNICEF, it's like messed up.
But that's been like since the 90s.
Yeah, but I mean, but shit, like, you know, you know, it's like those big corporations, it's, you know, that's exactly it. You know, it's like, and I mean, I hate to say it, but it's like the stallery. Like it's a ridiculously huge business.
Yeah.
You know, and it's like you see these corporations like, oh yeah, you know, this month this is getting donated to Stollery, this is getting donated to Stollery. It's like, but where's the like, you know, how much does it cost for the infrastructure for this to even exist? You know,
when I went overseas to Ethiopia, I went with an organization, Rainbow for the Future, and that was probably the best I've ever felt about an organization, was because they were doing donations. So they were very specific on, okay, if you donate money through this part of the organization, that's going to administrative costs. Thing is, like, it's a little office in Westlock. Like, it's like a small little building. The guy who ran the organization owned the building. So like overhead was like nothing.
Yeah.
Right. So it was like taxes. And then they had some like people that were doing like grant writing and stuff like that. And they were doing like 2-to-1 matching with the provincial and federal government and stuff. But then I followed them to Ethiopia, and I documented like where money was going. If you gave a penny today, this is where that penny went. It went into that well. And then you saw the people using the well, or the irrigation projects. Like there was like you actually saw results. That was cool.
Yeah.
And that's something like, I think a lot of organizations do really good things. They have a really hard time telling this story, but also their target is moving all the time too.
Yeah.
So, and there's so many things, you know, when you're looking at homeless, there's like alcohol, drugs, or substance abuse. And then you're looking at like just mental health, like people that have mental health issues. Then you've got like, you know, teen pregnancy or teen runaways or whatever. Like there's just there's so many.
Like you almost have to like, I mean, it sounds heartless at first, but you almost have to like process those people. You almost have to like go collect them all.
Yeah.
And put them through something.
Yeah.
So that you can sort
what is this? What is that? Where do you belong in the system?
Because the other problem too is there are people who literally just don't care.
Right.
And they just effed their lives up.
Yeah.
And
They don't. You can't help those
and
people.
you can't
They
help
don't
them.
want to be helped.
And yeah, and that's the other thing. There's been and the at the oh, come on now. In Sherwood Park, they have a big facility.
Oh,
come on. They're Catholic.
Sherwood Park.
And they had another facility in downtown as well. They literally have beds and
is it Sherwood Park Homeless Shelter?
No.
Strathcona Shelter Society?
No.
Safe Place Empty Women's Shelter Business?
No. Come on, Nick.
Oh man.
Can you believe that?
Okay, it'll pop back.
It'll come to me. But they would have dudes get into the program and be doing great.
Yeah.
And then one day
they
would just leave.
Yeah.
And then they would find them on the street again.
Yeah.
Because they're the guy's like, I can't. He's like, I can't.
So how do you combat that?
Yeah. But that's what I mean. There's going to be a baseline. There's going to be like a base level that you can't.
Yeah.
Because it's like the humans, like the choice.
It's the condition.
Right? The conditioning. Yeah. But if you go through and it's like, that's exactly it. It's like, well, you have to attack every person's issue differently. So if somebody has a substance abuse problem, giving them more money, getting them an apartment is not going to fix their issue.
Yeah.
Right? A teen mom, or a runaway. It's like, that's not getting them set, you know what I mean? Like you have to get to like the core of like what put them there.
Yeah.
And stuff like that. And the and even like the, the indigenous people, like it's like, you can find help for them.
Right.
And sometimes it is because of substance abuse, but it may just be, there may be other factors. And it's like, you almost have to come at it. It's not throwing money at it. It's not fundraisers. It's not, it's just
the gritty
work.
It's the gritty
work of it.
Yeah. And you do see those people when I was going down downtown on
Hope Mission.
Yeah. Like Hope Mission.
There we go. Hope Mission.
How do we not know that one? Yeah.
So stupid.
Speaking of Hope Mission, actually, I've seen some of the people that work in that building.
Yeah.
And like working with people, like they're walking on the streets and they're like, hey, they know these people like personally and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Man, like hearts of gold.
Yeah.
Like those people are like the real heroes. And I know like some of the funding goes towards them, and giving like making sure that they're being compensated for what they're doing so that they can have a life. But like the stuff they put up with, and it's like they never get compensated, I think, like properly, because and like some of them are just hearts of gold. Yeah. Like they're just there to truly, they just want
it's phenomenal.
Just help people, and like man, like hats off, kudos to them. Like you can't, I can't even fathom doing what they do, and so like they're a different kind of human.
Well, and even having that ability to like. That's where religion can sometimes come in, where it's like the ability to have some kind of like core rock that you can start rebuilding somebody from, right? They just need something to like grasp onto to start. And
like I think with religion and belief systems, it's about having purpose.
Yeah.
Like that there's a meaning to my existence. And when people have like, if people get really into their heads, they start questioning, well, like, why are we here?
Yeah.
And then they lose value in themselves.
Well, and then you end up, like you said,
life, right?
Yeah. You end up with then it's just like, how do I feel good right now today?
Yeah.
How do I, whatever. I feel like doing that. I don't feel like doing that. And then all of a sudden it's like, it can
go down the dark,
dark way. Yeah. Because in so many ways, like the struggle is the reward.
That's the reward. Yeah. I know. And people don't. I think a lot of people don't see that. Like that's a good point. That's a really good point. Like sometimes the struggle is what the purpose.
Like
is.
the action is the juice, as they say.
Right. Like there's I think if people get tired, if they fail too many times, if you fail too many times and then you start to give up.
Yeah.
If you can get some wins in there, there's that endorphin rush of like, I did it. Like I set out to do something. I did it. There's the endorphin rush. And if you can somehow get addicted to that endorphin rush of succeeding and the harder the struggle, the better the endorphin rush is when the successes hit.
Yeah.
And that's something that maybe some people just need to have. Some people just need to have a win.
Well,
in their life. Just one sometimes could be enough.
Yeah.
And like, I think that would be the hope in helping people is like, if you could just help them get that win to just have confidence, and then they want to chase that rush.
Yeah.
I still think that's a special person too. Like, well, not special, but I think that is in everybody. It's just got to be
well, I think we've
nurtured.
I think we've almost squashed that in people for a multitude of reasons. But, but you know, it's like that. You think about, like, I think about growing up and just how many different sort of areas of my life were sort of influencing, like how many things I would touch every week.
Right.
Like where it would be like, you know, you had your parents, and then you had your, you know, brother and sister, and then you had your church, and then you had your school, and then you had like your, you know, your arch, you know, your club, like whether it was like whatever you were doing, air cadets, archery, swimming, you know, your team sports, and all of a sudden you just had this like kind of like community around you, and it just feels like in the last few decades, like one thing at a time gets like taken away.
Yeah.
And then you get to the point where you have these people that literally you're totally isolated. Like, and I mean, yeah, you have friends, okay, but friends are friends.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
But I mean, they're totally isolated in the sense of like finding that purpose. There's just nothing there.
Yeah.
You know? And then you even have like, you know, and then all of a sudden even like having a girlfriend who lives with you is nothing. It's like you're not feeling, you know, because you're like, no, fuck, I'm never getting married. Who cares? Whatever, you know, so then all of a sudden that relationship is like not a rock anymore, because it's like you take it or leave it.
Right.
You know, and then it's like, and then you have that feeling of that constant like.
But that's where like the selfishness comes in too, right? Like
I think the selfishness comes from that, like, because like that's the other thing too. And that's the other thing people don't really kind of get, like, and it kind of goes back to, it goes back to like why like communism didn't work. It's like, because no, humans are shitty. You know, like a human being with nothing is shitty because your base instincts are shitty.
Well, no drive.
Like my base instinct is like, I'll kill you and take your stuff.
Yeah.
You know, or I'll get 100 women pregnant, because that's just like my brain is sowing the, you know, like trying to like sow the seed. Like that's your base. Like that's like your base, because we're all just animals and we're just running around trying to figure out who's going to be at the top and who's going to be at the bottom. And it's like, and keep the species going and make sure we have enough food and all this stuff. And it's like, so that's like where you start. So the idea that like, no, if we just put everybody there, it'll all be fine. It's like, no, it'll be much worse. You know, but having these.
Well, we all want more.
Yeah.
Like that's where like looking at animals is so interesting, and looking at instincts, like just the basic instincts, like lions, you know, and like how a tribe of lions runs, a tribe of wolves, apes, you know, or gorillas, watching how gorillas run and instinctually move. If you want to look like we're just apes. Like, just look at how they react in a society. I feel like their instincts though keep them in check for the most part. Like we're worse. Like you're right. Like humans we're worse than sometimes you look at animals and you're like, yeah, that wasn't a very good explanation.
But also too though, the animals also have a limited resource supply.
Yeah.
Right? Because if I'm like, you know, there's just how their bodies work, how they're like, so even as a pack of lions, like a pack of lions, it's like, we can't wipe out the Serengeti and become 1 million lions, because like we can't even walk far enough.
Yeah.
You know, I can't move my tribe to the next food source quickly enough.
Yeah.
You know, so there's all these like little, but if they could, they would.
Yeah. Yeah,
no, you know, like that's a thing. Like, because at the end of the day, like if a pack of a pack of wolves, like if you could make it so your pack was 3,000 wolves, and the alpha was able to like have sex with 2,000 female wolves, they'd do it.
Yeah.
Like, because that's just, it's making sure your species, like,
that's the caveman or the cave instinct, right? Like, that's instinct.
So like, all
survival of the species,
survival of the fittest,
the species.
And
exactly,
so like, so if you take everything away, like if you take belief systems of any kind away, any type of spirituality, any feeling that like I can sacrifice today so tomorrow is better, or I can deal with some discomfort or pain because it's the right thing to do, not because I feel like it. You know what I mean? Like when you're, I mean, well, you went through it. It's like, I'm sure when you were on 2 hours of sleep and Katana was like being a terror.
Ready to party.
And then like shit had explosive diarrhea all over you. Like, what does it take to keep you, you know what I mean? Like to like keep you going, right? And it's like, you know, or like going to see like, you know, going to visit your grandparents. Like nobody likes to go see their grandparents.
I love my grandparents.
Yeah,
what are you talking about?
Well, we love them, but I mean, you know, but it's just like all of these small, like if it's not, doesn't feel just great. If you get to the point where if it doesn't feel great, you just don't do it.
Yeah.
Soon enough, whether it takes months or years or a decade, you wake up one morning and like you have nothing.
Yeah.
You know, like literally, like you have nothing. It's like the number one thing of when people are like, well, that's not my job.
Yeah.
As soon as you hear somebody say, that's not my job, if you're running the company, you should fire them immediately.
No kidding. Yeah, because it's not a unit anymore.
Yeah.
It's like you're not working for the common
You're not working
good.
for
You're
the
working for yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, that's not my job. Like that's the number one, you know, like famous, like Disney famously firing his CEO in the 80s.
Yeah.
Because they were touring the park and the CEO didn't pick up a piece of trash.
That will help.
You know what I mean? And he goes like, hang on, what'd you just do there? He's like, what do you mean? You walk by that piece of trash. And he's like, oh yeah, we have the janitor, the people take care of that. He's like, oh, okay, you're fired. You know, it's like, that's where you end up. Like, that's where you end up. You end up with nothing.
Yeah.
You know, and I think that's what people need to like, everything would be a lot better if just people started to like,
well, do things because it's the right thing to do.
Yeah. No, but I mean, do things because it enriches you in some other way other than just your base. Like, well, you have to
find a bigger value than yourself. You know, going back to like that guy I was talking about the wood place, you know, that just knows all the species of wood. Like he is so selfless and just doing things for, you know, other people. He just donates wood for projects. So, like I was saying before, coffins and military projects and you know, RCMP and things like that. Like it's needed by them and they respect that someone else respects them. And that's outside of like, he just does that because that's makes him feel good and it's the right thing to do. That's huge. Like and we need more. Well, and then we need more of that.
And then the other thing too is like, we've gotten to the point where you don't have to do that to get that
to get recognition.
To get that kind of recognition.
Not for recognition. It's just, like that's the thing. It's like this dude's like the humblest guy ever.
Yeah.
He's so humble. Like he was just excited to talk about the things that he was doing because he loves what he's doing.
Yeah.
He wasn't there to brag. He was just like, oh yeah, like I did this thing and it was awesome. Like there were so many good people and so many good things I did and I was able to help people. And you're just like, that's awesome. Like you're not bragging. You're just like to hear more of those stories. And that's the other thing is people are like, I just bragging as well. No, like they have to identify, people need to identify when they hear those stories that it's like, what's a brag? And then what's like genuine, just like goodness and excitement to be alive and to be excited to be a part of something or to be excited to start something that's helping others, you know?
Yeah.
That's what
as opposed to like just posting some bullshit on social media saying that you care about something that you've done absolutely nothing like of substance.
Or know very little about the subject.
Yeah. That's also good. Yeah,
that's crazy.
You know, but like that's exactly it. Like that ability to like have something that drives you to like, you know, give of yourself.
Yeah.
With nothing in return, zero in return.
Yeah.
You know, like how do you get to the point where you even have, you know, it's like those guys who like videotape themselves going to like give a homeless person.
Yeah, that's like
that's sick.
That's
actually sick.
It is.
You know, like something's wrong. You know,
yeah,
like something's wrong with them.
Yeah.
You know, to be like, oh, I'm just here in my Lamborghini. We're just gonna go down. I'm just gonna pick a guy and we're gonna set him up.
Yeah.
It's like, what are you doing?
And like statistically, that's always gonna fail.
Well, obviously,
like statistically,
yeah.
Like it's just like, yeah. So you know, educate yourself a little bit on what you're doing, right? So
I don't know. It's
and I know like they say that too, like even in like third world countries and stuff, if you're visiting, like they say like don't give money to the beggars and stuff like that. You're actually like it's actually worse for them.
Yeah.
Which is like again, there's studies done on that. So yeah, it's kind of crazy. So anyway, we got to cut it short. We've got a bunch of other stuff that's coming through right now that's is demanding attention. So
all right.
Anyway, Nick, thanks for coming in again this week. Super awesome to see you. Get my daily dose of Nick.
Well, now everybody can get their daily. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing.
Yeah, well, based on this, the whole thing. Good stuff. Okay, man. Thanks a lot. Hey, everybody. Thanks for listening.
Be good to each other.
Yeah, be good to each other. Just that's the whole moral of the thing. Just be good to each other. Do things out of kindness of your heart, not for recognition. Yeah. And stay healthy and safe. And see you next week.
Yeah, see you next week.
Peace.